Hello and welcome to another Blue Fire Faith. I am Dr. Kimberlee Mendoza, and today we're going to talk about hearing God's voice. I think it's really important that we hear God's voice. Did you know that there is a frequency that only dogs and children can hear? I didn't, and then my children thought it was hilarious because I couldn't hear the frequency. And apparently once you're over the age of 30, you can no longer hear it. And so they think that's hilarious and fun to pick on me with it. But they're almost 30, so they better watch out because they won't be able to hear it much longer either. Here's the thing, is that if we've got so much of the world coming into our life and there's all this noise and racket and we never have time where we're just in God's presence and meditating on His Word, that we can no longer hear the frequency of God's voice, that our spiritual ears become deaf to it. And so it's really important that we do that. I had a woman come up to me one time and I was telling her that I never really had time alone. And she's like, well, then when do you hear from God? I was like, wow, that's really powerful stuff, because if you're always have something bombarding you, you don't really hear God's voice. There's a great story in 1 Kings in chapter 19. If you don't read the Old Testament ever, you really should. There's so many cool stories. But this one, the Lord said, go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, and the Lord is about to pass by. Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After that, there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And then there was a gentle whisper, and that's where the Lord was. The Lord comes to us in a small voice. It's not going to be loud and obnoxious. It's usually pretty soft. And so we have to have a place where we can hear that voice, a space where we can hear that voice. It's a conversation. It's a relationship. The more you hang out with Him, the more you'll recognize it. It says, my sheep hear my voice and I know them and they follow me. That's John 10:27. So the more we hang out with Him, the more we give Him time to speak to us, the more we listen, we'll know when it's of God. And by the way, if someone comes up to you and is like, the Lord told me such and such, and it's not confirmation of something that God already told you, He'll always tell you first. It's never revelation. It should always be confirmation. I don't think He'll tell someone else before He tells you. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes I've had people tell me something, and then later on, He did tell me, and so at the time it didn't mean anything, but later on I was like, oh, that's very interesting. But it's usually a confirmation. Jeremiah 33:3 says, call and I will answer. So the Lord is ready to answer you. It's just that we have to make sure that we are still enough or quiet enough that we can actually hear Him respond. And then the Bible also says in John 8:47, those that belong to me will hear my voice. And so if you don't belong to the Lord, and you're praying, you may not hear from Him, but He is answering. He's always answering. Sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no, sometimes it's wait. But for us to understand or to comprehend it or to find joy, then we need to just spend time in prayer and have a conversation with the Lord and let Him speak into our hearts and in our lives. And I know there's people out there that don't believe that God speaks to them, and I think that's really sad. Because He does speak to me, and it's not an audible voice, though there are times when it almost feels that way because it's just so will not go away. But He does speak to our hearts, and we just have to be paying attention and know that He will not do anything that is against Scripture. He will not tell you anything that it goes against His Word. He will not do anything that is going to harm you. He wants what's best for you. We just have to trust Him and be listening. So that's it for today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and God bless you. Take care. We'll see you next time.